Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This webinar is being presented by Intellias, and it is preparing for your FSM upgrade. So our agenda looks like this. We'll have introductions and some housekeeping. We'll do a little overview about Intellias. We will talk about the what, why, and the how of preparing for your FSM upgrade, and then get into the nuts and bolts of what you can do to prepare. We'll leave some time at the end for questions and then conclude our webinar. So first off, joining me today is Mr. Mike Beyer. He is an FSM principal consultant here at Intellias and will present the bulk of this webinar. My name is Debbie Sherman and I am a solution architect at Intellias. We would like for you to put your questions in the chat and we'll review those at the end of the webinar. As Chandra so gratefully mentioned, we are recording this session and it will be shared via email after the presentation. You can also find us on YouTube and LinkedIn. So about Intellias. Intellias was established in 1999. We are headquartered in Dallas, Texas, but also have an office in Chicago. We are an Infor Alliance partner, and we provide consulting services that include Infor Lawson technical services, Infor Lawson upgrades, Infor Lawson application consulting, Infor cloud services, and Infor CloudSuite consulting, which of course covers our HR talent, payroll, financials, and supply chain. And then we also offer additional software offerings to make your system more efficient. So that said, we're going to get into the what, the whys, and the hows of preparing for your upgrade. So the what, why, and how of preparedness. So what are we talking about? You've made the decision or in the process of making a decision to upgrade to FSM. You may be coming from Lawson, you may be coming from another ERP, but you are in the process or have made that decision. Why did you make that decision? Change is progression. Application enhancements, new technology equal new opportunities, better performance, enhanced reporting, more user-friendly functionality, and out with the old and in with the new. So how are you going to do that? How do we get to that long-term goal? You define your long-term roadmap, you develop a plan, you assign resources, and you identify target dates. So that said, our roadmap to success for preparing your organization for upgrading to FSM should include cleanup efforts, redefining your organization where you can, standardization and optimization, identifying pain points that you have today in your current system, and wish upon a star, what would I like to have in my new system? Conversion efforts, which are very important, and looking at your third-party applications to determine what will we continue to use, what can we sunset, etc. And then finally, once you've determined all of these and looked at all of these factors, we'll talk about the roadmap, the plan, resources, and a timeline. All right, so from here, we're going to start with cleanup efforts, and I'm going to now hand over the reins to Mike Beyer. Mike, let me know when you're ready for the next slide. You're welcome.
I am all set. Can everybody hear me just fine? I hope. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Cleanup efforts are a very important part when you are moving into the new ERP system. And it's your opportunity to scrub and cleanse your data. But now's your chance to, in general ledger, do you have extra companies that you no longer are using? Department or cost centers, or what you might call accounting units. And your accounts that maybe haven't had no activity in the last 12 to 18 months. Cash management. Do you have bank accounts, bank transaction codes, that type of thing, cash codes that are no longer being used? Do you reconcile your bank statements timely? Or just reconcile your cash ledger transactions in general? Now's the time to make sure that you have everything reconciled and ready to move forward. In payables, inactivate or purge vendors, vendor locations, maybe with no activity in the last 12 to 18 months. Inactivate or purge your one-time vendors. And I know that sometimes one-time vendors turn into a real vendor. So there's a line there. Review your vendor statements and resolve credit balances for invoices older than 12 months. Why are the credits on this vendor's account, that type of thing? Review and resolve INR, your invoice not received, for invoices older than 6 months. Why do you have all these invoices that you have no receipts for yet, that type of thing? And then in receivables, resolve age invoices over 12 months, maybe by increasing your collection efforts and deciding to perform write-offs, that type of thing. Inactivate your customers with no balances in activity in the last 12 months. Do you feel like you're not going to be using these customers in the future? And then review your received not applied. Review all the cash that you have got in for a customer and they have not been applied to any transactions yet. In projects, you can review your expired projects and close them. Review projects with no activity in the last 6 to 12 months. Maybe those projects should now be closed. And then with your assets, perform your inventory. Review your inventory and dispose of all assets that are ready to be disposed of. Next, Debbie. Requisitions. Review your unapproved or unreleased requisitions and resolve the issue. Purchase orders. Review your open PO lines. Again, maybe older than 6 months. Determine if maybe the PO was paid with a non-PO invoice and resolve the situation. And then, of course, review your unreleased receipts, older than 30 days, that type of thing. Your item master, now it's time to review and inactivate your duplicate items or items with no activity, the type of things that we can clean up in your item master. Inventory transactions. Review the unreleased inventory transactions older than 90 days and get those resolved. Your inventory contracts. Review your expired contracts and resolve, close them out. Purchasing and ship to locations. Inactivate locations that are no longer in use, are no longer valid, that type of thing. And then the big one,
I'm so sorry, Mike.
Oops, that's okay, Debbie.
It's my fault, so sorry.
Review your received not invoices that might be older than 6 months. Collaborate with accounts payable and resolve the issue. All right, Debbie. Now, review your approval processes, both for finance and supply chain. Are they compliant with your financial policies? Do your level of authorities need to be changed and adapt with your growing organization? Now is the time to determine what those changes should be. And you'll find out that in CloudSuite FSM application, the approval process has been greatly enhanced. And now is the time to make sure that you have everything, all the authority levels and everything up the line to make sure that everything is getting approved properly in a timely manner. And then we can move into RICE, which is reports, interfaces, customizations, extensions, reports. Inventory your reports and assign a could have, should have, must have, or no longer, the report is no longer applicable to what you're trying to do. Provide samples of each report, including source, owner, and parameters. Now, reports obviously are a very important thing in a financial application. And a lot of times reports get put on the back burner during an implementation, and that should not happen. We got to have your reports up front. And so that we know, again, what you could have, should have, or must have. We'll talk more about that later. Your interfaces. Inventory your interfaces. Define their use, need, and owner. And again, defining these things along with your owner and the parameters and that type of thing is important to get up front so we can always have all this stuff up front so we know everything that we have to tackle. Customizations. Again, inventory your customized forms and fields, maybe a customized program. Decide their need, use, and owner. And we'll talk more about that later too. But in the new application, there's a lot of flexibility to improve on all kinds of different processing needs. And then your extensions. Inventory your extensions. These may be approval flows, automations, or any IPAs that you currently have. And again, define their need, the use, and owner. And then overall, determine what can go and what will be invited to stay. In some cases, new functionality can replace an existing customization or extension. And then provide design documents or flowcharts where you can. The more information, the better. It's very important as being a consultant on a project team to understand exactly how you do everything today so that we can talk about it and maybe enhance it. All right, Debbie. Redefining your organization. Now, this is a very big change that will, I think you'll find out, will benefit you in your organization. Have you been thinking about a reorganization? An upgrade is the perfect time to consider changes to the financial structure of your organization. Today, you may be limited in how your financial hierarchies can be managed. With enhancements in FSM, you have the opportunity to expand your general ledger code block. FSM out of the box, of course, is going to include your accounting entity or company, your account and project, and you also have the accounting unit in this section, but they've added 10 additional finance dimensions that are user defined and can be used in many ways. Now, this is where you always maybe wanted to have something on your general ledger code block today that you couldn't. Maybe you want to create locations, cost centers, departments, the project category, maybe service line, provider, trading partner, payer, cost object. Now, again, these are just examples of things that we have seen used in these extra dimensions. You can name them whatever you would like, and they all will have a hierarchy for reporting purposes, which brings me into the flexibility with reporting, utilizing alternate charts, finance dimension hierarchies, provides alternate views of the final picture, solutions for regulatory requirements. Today, you may be restricted to one chart of account, one structure, where this account rolls up into this summary account, and so on and so forth. In FSM, you can have as many alternate hierarchies that you would like to use. For instance, one person might like to see your chart of accounts to roll up a little different than somebody else would like to see. Going forward in FSM, you could create alternate hierarchies so that you can give that person that would like to see something in a particular way that somebody else doesn't want to see. Now you have the ability to give that person what they're asking for. And that goes into re-engineer your chart of accounts to fit your future and support organizational growth. Standardize across the organization. Now, in FSM, the general ledger company is not the top of the hierarchy no longer. It's called a finance enterprise group. And underneath that finance enterprise group, you'd have all your companies. And so now you're able to really standardize across the whole organization because your company, your accounting entity is no longer the top of the hierarchy. Okay, Debbie.
Sure.
Yep. Standardization and optimization. Whether or not you're going to be doing any reorganization is in the future. This is also an optimal time to standardize and optimize processes across your organization. Workflow approvals. If you don't have them, maybe you want to consider implementing the benefits to your organization. Do you have multiple entities or companies that handle approvals differently? Or are there bottlenecks in your current process? Where are the opportunities that you can standardize? And workflow approvals is huge and very flexible going forward in FSM. How are your journal entries processed consistently across the organizations? Are you optimizing your cash flow and utilizing the full capabilities of the system? Are there opportunities to standardize invoice and purchase order processing? Do you use imaging? Would you like to? How are your payments processed? How are they being printed? And in FSM going forward, there's something called document management that you can actually print your checks, print invoices, and that type of thing right out of the system. Are you utilizing the system for receivables invoicing? There's many ways that you can get invoices in. You can consider uploads and out of the box functionality to optimize. What policies and procedures are in place to create your assets? Do you have the proper tools to track and report? Are projects used to their full potential, or what you might call activities today, right? We're going to call them projects in the future. Enhanced project reporting allows the tracking of budgets to expenses, variances, obligations. Do you use your project for your assets, grants, restricted or non-restricted funds, special internal projects? Are your receiving processes up to par? What can be done to reduce INR and R&I? The INR, if that gets backlogged, now your payments are going to your vendors in timely manner. You can start talking about credit holds, that type of thing. So reducing your R&I and your INR is huge for your processing with your payables, invoices, that type of thing. Are you interested in strategic sourcing or mobile supply chain? Both is a great opportunity for organizations to utilize inventory or high volume. Then overall, this is a great opportunity to implement procedures you have been putting off or not have had the time and resources to implement. And as we talked earlier about getting detailed information about your processes today, now is the time to analyze those type of procedures and see where we can fine tune them and make them better, and which will make everybody's job a lot easier and everybody will be keeping up. Okay, Debbie. Identify your pain points and wish upon a star. Now, this is huge. One of the most important considerations when preparing for an upgrade is identifying what procedures in your current day processing that are causing the most pain to your employees and your organization. Looking at opportunities for improving these procedures can often result and increase productivity and optimization. Any pain point that any of the users have in today's world, there probably is a way that we could do it better in FSM, make it smoother. And that's why we need to know, as a consultant coming into a project, I need to know how your processes are working. You need to point out, but Mike, this part here is really a pain for us. Well, let's sit down and we can discuss how we can get rid of that pain point. And through the discovery process with the implementation partner, questions will be designed to best determine what these pain points are. So this should be done at the discovery process so that we have all the list of anything that might be a pain point for any of the workers so that we know that we can address this as we start into the project. And then another very important consideration is the wish upon a star mentality. Come to the table with everything that you would like to have. Vetting these ideas can result in reducing manual efforts, increasing productivity, reducing cost across the organization, and overall affecting the performance of the organization. Now, when you come up with these wishes that you would like to have, because it would make your reporting better or somebody's job better, there might be a new enhancement in the FSM that's going to take care of that right out of the box that you don't have today. But if we don't know that you would like to have it, well, then there's no way that we'll be able to give it to you, right? And then create an inventory of the pain points and wishes. Explain the processes in detail. Provide documentation that can support the challenge or the opportunity. And again, as we've talked, the more information that we can get, the easier that it will be for us to be able to hit those pain points and wishes as we get into the project. And ask for the world. And then we can negotiate from there, right? Now, you might have some kind of a wish upon a star that maybe just not going to be something that the application can do. But unless you ask for it, we don't know if that will be the answer.
And sometimes we can create magic.
That's right. And you'll find that out.
Do that on occasion.
And yeah, and sometimes these wishes might not be something that we're going to do initially as we go live, but maybe because it might take a little more development or stuff like that, where, yeah, we can do this, but it's going to take this additional development, that type of thing. Well, then maybe we can move that into a phase after go live to implement that wish. Conversion efforts. Ensuring the data from your legacy system translates properly to FSM obviously is very critical to an organization's ability to do business. Decisions are going to have to be made. What's all going to be converted? How is the data going to be translated or crosswalked into the new application? How much data is going to be converting? And then, of course, testing and validating your conversion, your converted data. Cleanup efforts, again, come in to be instrumental in ensuring that converted data is logical, appropriate, and cleansed. Remember, garbage in is garbage out. That's very important. If we're got garbage that we're coming in, we're going to have garbage that's going to come out. Validate, validate, validate. The importance of validation is key. This effort guarantees the data from your legacy system will be mirrored in FSM. There is nothing, well, there's probably a lot of things, but there's nothing worse than after go live, all of a sudden your financial reports aren't accurate. And the reason is the converted data. So we got to make sure that you validate one-to-one and make sure that everything is identical to what it should be. And that brings us into the testing for conversions. It's generally done multiple times throughout the project. The first pass, right, we're going to validate the crosswalk, the mapping, make sure that all the data is coming in and getting into the interfaces without any error. And then while those perform, the passes performed later become critical to the go live readiness. Again, we ensure a proper testing plan is in place. And that is the validate, validate, validate. All right, Debbie. Third-party applications. We all have them. This is the time to determine if the interfaces with third-party applications are going to still be necessary. Examples. What type of, what is being used to create journal entries today? Can it maybe be replaced with out-of-the-box functionality? How are your bank accounts reconciled? Can out-of-the-box functionality be used? In FSM, the bank reconciliation process has been greatly enhanced. And so if you're not using a BAI file coming in to reconcile your bank statements, I really push for this. You should start thinking about that, right? Your bank statements, very important. Do you have approvals being done in another application? If you are, why can't we just get the approvals into the FSM with the out-of-the-box functionality or IPAs and that type of thing that we can enhance things? Can IPA flows be created to transfer data between systems instead of using hubs or SFTP sites right now? Look at applications that are reaching the end of life or will no longer be supported. Can FSM supply a solution? Reviewing third-party applications and determining how or if it will be used in the future gets you one step ahead. Maybe you'll find out that you have this third-party application that you're no longer going to need. So then you can sunset that application in FSM. All right, Debbie. Roadmap, plan, resource, and timeline. For a project, for a implementation, this is the most critical part of the project. So now that we've identified what needs to be done, now it's time to consider how are we going to get there and when? Define the long-term roadmap, the amount of work effort that's going to be needed, the implementation start and the finish. Develop a plan, assign tasks, and along with those tasks, you're probably going to assign due dates. So when somebody has a task that we need, it's important that we track all of this and that we assign due dates so that we can keep the project on track. Assign your resources. Subject matter experts are a good choice for overseeing the process. Identify your target dates. Spread them out to ensure success. Provide ample time to perform the tasks, taking into consideration resource availability. Very, very important. Your resource availability. Everybody's got a real job, right? And they got to make sure that they can do their real job in a timely manner like they are supposed to. So you don't want to push things too much that now your resources are moving up to getting to a stress level because they're having to work more than 40 hours a week. Because again, everybody's got a real job. Okay, Debbie. Keys to a successful implementation. Preparedness efforts. What you do ahead of time makes all the difference to determines your organization's upgrade readiness. So all the things that we've talked about of cleansing, getting ready, that type of thing, everything that we can get done ahead of time is obviously going to benefit the project as a whole. And then resources again. I just touched on this, but this is one of the most common challenges we see as consultants. Organizations face resource constraints, which means dedicated resources for projects are not always realistic. Ensuring the right balance is important. Real, realistic timeline, very important. Consider your upgrade readiness. Did you obtain your goals? What percentage of time can resources apply to the project? What blackout periods do you need? Month ends, maybe year ends, that type of thing. Based on the answers, determines a timeline that allows your organization to be successful. This is huge. Everybody wants to do the project as fast as possible, right? We all want that. Budget constraints, all type of things come into play. But if you are not realistic and you do something like, oh, we're going to go live in 6 months, you could be setting yourself up to fail. And that does not do anybody any good. And when you're not realistic, that's when you start running into budget constraints, going over the budget. Or one of the worst things of a project, in my mind, having to push the original go live date. Nothing worse than that. We didn't make it. And a lot of times when that happens, maybe we weren't realistic enough when the project plan was put together. That's very important. Don't set yourself and the project up to fail. Very important. Design, build, and deploy. Discovery is essential and often is not given the time needed to identify an organization's business processes. Ensuring a 360 approach to design ensures the building blocks for a successful build. Overall, with success in design and build, deploy is sure to follow. Discovery. Discovery is where we find out everything. We find out every process that we have to accomplish. We find out the details of it. We find out things that we are going to enhance. We find out how we're going to do your build. What's the structure going to be? What's your hierarchy going to be? That type of thing. The open-minded approach. It's also, in my mind, is huge. Don't get stuck in a rut. Be open to adopt the new standard out-of-the-box process. Could the new functionality improve your process or make it more efficient? You don't have to recreate what you already have. Differentiate yourself. You don't always want to recreate what you do today because the FSM flexibility will probably allow that we can enhance it. Yes, change can be difficult for everybody, but a lot of times when you're going to the FSM or to a new ERP, once you get used to the change, you're going to love it, and you're going to love it the way that it's making your job more efficient and easier. Implementation partner. The right fit makes the best partnership. Now, interview just as you would if you were filling an internal position. Your business acumen and experience are key, but the ability to collaborate and think outside the box are equally important factors when choosing who you will be working with. So interview those consultants like me or like Debbie. What are our personalities like? What are your personalities like? Do they communicate well? That type of thing. Because there's projects, it takes a lot of time. You're going to be working with these people for many hours in the future. And so you got to make sure that all the personalities and everything fits in to your organization. Very important. All right,
And
Debbie.
keeping in mind that regardless, this is about you as an organization.
Yes.
I've worked with many consultants, as has Mike, and it goes both ways in that your processes today may be fabulous. You may have some that just work wonderfully, and yes, absolutely. And we may take something away from that going on to our next project. But this is about a collaboration between what your organization does, your knowledge within that organization, and our knowledge and ability to make the system work for you. So it isn't about us telling you this is how you have to do it. The wonderful thing about FSM is that it offers so much flexibility. We can do things a multitude of ways. And that's going to be your biggest factor, is just making sure that, again, you as the organization are open-minded, we as consultants are open-minded, and that will always lead to a successful implementation.
Very good point, Debbie. Very good point. And again, like Debbie said, you might have a wonderful process today that you'll want to keep tomorrow. Now, as a consultant, when you have a process that you're doing, it's not for us to tell you, no, you're doing it the wrong way. Nope, you should be doing it this way. But as a consultant, with our experience, if we feel that maybe you should do something a different way, we're not just going to tell you. One of our jobs would be to give you enough information about why we think you should maybe do it a different way, give you the pros and the cons, and then as an organization, you'll be able to decide on how the procedure is going to move forward. So
Making
Debbie is right.
informed decisions, right?
Yep. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to help you and give you our experience and our education and give you the pros and cons, like I said. And then as a organization, you make the decision how you're going to move forward on that.
Well, thank you, everyone. That kind of concludes our presentation. So we will take any questions that you have. If you'd like to put them in the chat, we'll pull them up and get you some answers.
Yeah. And also feel free, you see the email addresses.
Yes, absolutely.
Send us an email.
Thank you, Mike. Yep.
We will take our time to respond to anybody out of out of respect.
We do have a question here. Are there APIs which could replace flat files?
Are there APIs that can replace flat files?
Yes.
What kind of flat files are we talking about? One that comes to mind for me would be something along the lines of an ACH translation for payments, where you would take a flat file and translate that currently to send to your bank for maybe 820s. You could talk about flat files for receipts and the purchase order side. Did you have a specific type of flat file you were referring to?
I will say that with the IPAs and APIs, yes.
Yes, there's a lot.
There is no doubt in my mind that it can solve whatever type of file you're looking at. Very flexible, and the answer is definitely yes.
And there was an added note, bank files or files to other systems.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
And talking about that, about getting files to other systems, there's something that's called replication sets that we can run that will replicate your data to push it out to be sent to a third party or another system. Maybe you have a system that you do a lot of reporting on and you want to keep using it. And there's all kinds of ways with APIs, replication sets to get all the data out that you're looking for. Absolutely.
All right, we've got another
So-
one. What is the average timeline for the pre-project cleanup? Sounds like it's an organization that's been on Lawson since 1997.
Okay, so Matt, are you on V10 today? Or are you still, I'm assuming you are not on V7 because it's not supported.
Right.
The project,
We've been on since version 7. We're on version 10 now.
well, wow, that's fantastic. I go back to version 6 and I think Mike does as well, or version 5. Pre-project cleanup is really going to be based on what kind of resources you have as an organization. If you are in the position where you've already made that decision to move to FSM, then start as soon as you can. I would give that timeline at least 6 months. If you've got the resources to do it in a shorter time, absolutely do it. If you're bringing in augmented staff to do it, that's great. But normally I would say at least 6 months prior to the start of the implementation.
Okay, that helps. Yeah, our dist is so nasty, and PR time, those tables
Yeah.
are
You know, I was a director of AP for many, many years. And even though we did multiple cleanup efforts, there's always something, you know, it's not a bad thing. Every organization has it. I've yet to see one that doesn't. So, but it just helps the implementation process if you do that stuff up front. So Judith, or JD Turlin, has a question. If you use imaging, do you have to pick a different imaging software? And if so, will all imaging software integrate to FSM? So most will. Infor is not ready to deploy its OCR. They do have Infor document management, which can print checks, house purchase order copies, invoices, etc. So yes, you do have to pick a different imaging software. There are many out there. Infor has several partners they prefer. I can throw out some names. There is Kofax that does Image Now. There is Bottom Line Technologies, MHC, Episoft. There are many. Infor currently partners with MHC and Episoft, and there may be others, so don't quote me on that. Both are wonderful products. And then we have another question. We currently use FlexForm for forms printing. We have 30 different business units that run under a single Lawson company. When we generate nightly invoices, it pulls the correct company logo. Is that going to work with the new document printing in Lawson on Lawson since V6? So we have some things we can do with IDM if you're going to switch over. This will again be dependent on whether you want to continue to use FlexForm or you're going to use IDM. IDM has a wonderful tool within Word that allows you to format the invoices anyhow you'd like. It's a great tool that a lower end user can manage as well. So dependent on that, how we would bring in the logos would be dependent on how we assign the differentiator for each of those business units. So in your conversations, when you're ready to go live, I would say, or when you're ready to decide on an implementation partner, you need to have those discussions. Are we going to have multiple companies? As Mike indicated in our talks today, and Mike, I'll let you speak a little more to this, but you have that enterprise group at the finance enterprise group at the highest level. So you could now reorganize and have each of those business units as its own company, or because we have the ability to use those additional finance dimensions, you could have a dimension that's business unit. So you have company number one, business unit number one, and whichever department. Based on that, when you're creating invoices for those departments, it would be done by that specific business unit. Did
Yes,
that answer your question? Yep.
And as far as the different logos for like printing checks and that type of thing, absolutely. You can have each business unit that wants their logo. We absolutely can set that up as the check template will have the individual logos for each business unit. Absolutely.
Yep.
We've got another one. How do you efficiently purge vendors? AP 300 fails when we use a vendor list. Sounds like due to Micro Focus errors.
We'd have to look in to see what the errors would be. And maybe it is the volume. Maybe we would have to break it down in some manner. But there should be a way that we should be able to get it to not blow up with any type of error. So
All great questions. All right, so Matt's indicating there's single tenant hosted, but would like to know how to prepare for multi-tenant and not being able to use SQL in our IPA flows. So there's LPL language. I think you will really like the new IPA process. An implementation partner should require training for you as well as knowledge transfer on how to utilize those. And I'm going to tell you that I can't, Mike may be able to answer this question, but as far as what can be done pre-project to get you off of SQL, I really can't answer that question. That's more of a technical realm. But I could certainly take that away and come back to you with an answer. Mike, do you have an idea?
yep. And again, right now you deal with database files. Okay. In FSM, you deal with something that's called a business class. And the relations and everything amongst the amount of data that a business class holds today versus a individual database file is huge. And the relations are so much better in FSM, so that with the additional relation, you don't really need that SQL statement that you join this file and join this file, and you join this file, you join this file, because the relations are so flexible and huge. And the fact about something called configuration console, you can create your own relations, your own user fields, your own everything, that you'll find out that with the relations and stuff, you don't need all those SQL things that you're joining this file, that file, and this file in the future. So I do know that.
Yep, and a lot of those are done with LPL language as well.
Yes.
I think also Design Studio is what has been replaced with Config Console. And again, it's very simple to do. And one of the other things, Matt, with Config Console, so Infor got away from the canned reporting so much in FSM as what they refer to as list views. Those list views can be modified. They can be personalized on a screen for someone that wants to put things in a different order, etc. But then we also have the ability within Configuration Console to maybe take a list view, add additional fields to it, and turn it into a report. So those can then be published out globally to everyone very easily. So there's so many new enhancements in that area that it gives the users that ability at their fingertips to create a report from just a main list view, even without the use of Config Console. So, I mean, we could talk hours about the differences between the two. And again, I'm a longtime Lawson user. So FSM's ability things are just at your fingertips. And for accounting folks, that's very important. I don't want to have to pull up a report, put in the parameters, change the parameters, rerun the report, wait for it to run, when everything can be done right there at your fingertips and pops up on your screen, can be exported to CSV. It's amazing what the new functionality has done from a user perspective.
Yeah, you're right, Debbie. And every one of these, like this page, as Debbie's talking about, you have the ability to export to CSV, Excel, or PDF.
Yeah.
Just by a couple of clicks, and you're going to have this report in your print manager.
Yep.
And talking about the print manager, one thing I want to point out, you know, like today, when you run a particular batch type job, when you go to your completed queue, you only see the last job that you ran. In FSM, every report in your print manager stays there until you decide that you want to get rid of them. So I can run this report today, and I can still go to my print manager and see what that report was like last month when I ran this. That's also a huge improvement.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll thank you everyone for joining. We very much appreciate it again. This will be sent out via email, and should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help any way we can.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good
you.
day.